And then I'll show you how to check them in Desmos also. So for number 1, which of the following is the answer, you could do one of two things. Solve it, or take each answer and put it in for x and see which one works. So you have a choice there. I'm just going to solve it. Get rid of the 10 by subtracting on both sides. And then get rid of the 6 by multiplying on both sides. So that our answer was 80. Questions on that one? The shepherd, I checked problems. Oh. Number 2, we had to cross multiply. So we would do 3 times b minus 3 equals 8 times 2b minus 8. Distribute the 3 to both parts, the 8 to both parts. To get 3b minus 9 equals 16b minus 64. Start to move whatever you want. I'm going to do this at the same time. Get rid of 3b by subtracting. And add 64. So that we get 55, equals, that was supposed to be 13b. And when you divide, you get some weird fraction. This one. So if you got this as your answer, that was correct. Questions on that? The last one, we needed to distribute. This one, you'd be distributing a -1, there's an invisible 1 right there. So we have 6 plus 32x minus 56 minus 2x minus 1. And then combine like terms. So the 6, the -56, the -1, all go together. The 32x and the -2x go together. Bless you. So 6 minus 56 would give us -50. -50 minus 1 would be -51. And then 32 minus 2 would be, or you might say like this. So we can't combine those two at the end because those are not like terms. Questions on that? Make sure you have all of those written down. I did want to show you really quickly in Desmos. Remember that on the shortcut, you guys can work together, use Desmos, check your notes, all those things. We'll come back to that. Don't worry about that right now. Number 1, if I type in that equation, 8 equals x over 6 plus 10, I would get a line at -12, and that would tell me that one is my answer. For 2, I would need to put in everything but change the b to an x. ends up at this line, but because of the way this is written, it won't actually show what the number is, but if you zoom in, you'll see that it was at that same place, at that same decimal. The last one, there is a way to do it in decimals, but I'm trying to remember exactly how that is, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. So when I think of that, I will come back to that. Take out your slope notes and go to this page. Anyone need another one of those? Okay, so last class we talked about slope and how to find it from a graph from 2 points or algebraically from 2 points. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about slope, but in a different sense. So we need to know about slope-intercept form. Do you need it? Do you need it? Or were you going to ask something else? Just open the page. Yep. Ask if I can use it. Yeah. Does anyone know what slope-intercept form is? What is it? Go ahead. There's an M in it. Y equals mx plus. There you go. Where M is the, we talked about this last class. Slope. And the B is the y-intercept. Good. So we're going to be doing a lot of things with slope-intercept form moving forward, so we need to know what that is, what it looks like, how to find things in it, but also be able to write things in slope-intercept form, and so on and so forth. So in these examples, we are given slope, we're given y-intercept, we want to put those into this format. So for the first one, it's going to start off y equals whatever the slope is. I'm going to replace that with that number 2. The x goes right next to it. That was the x anyway. And then the b, it says plus b, but if it's minus, that's okay, because sometimes our y-intercepts are negative. Did you figure out? Yeah. Okay. So then how would we write the second one? Y equals negative 3/5 x plus 4. So always make sure that you have a y, that you have an equals, that you have an x. This is not writing. Here we go. What about number 3? Y equals negative 3. We don't need the one part, but we are missing something. X. We can't forget the x. For this next one, we can write this one of 2 ways. Y equals negative 1x plus 7. Or you can drop the 1 and just put them negative. Y equals negative x plus 7. They mean the same thing. The 1 is invisible on the second one. You just have to know that they mean the same thing. Are you writing this down? How would we write number 5? Yes. So you write 1 of 2 ways. Y equals 1/4 x plus 0, or you can not put the 0. What's it? It does not happen. Either or. Because this one is implied that your y-intercept is 0, but this one you're just showing y-intercept is actually 0.
Yeah. I know this is too early, but like when you put that on the graph, would you like just go up 1/4?
I'm glad that you're making those connections. We're going to talk about graphing next week. But yes. Do we need to see 6? Or want to see 6? Okay. Look at the very last page. We're going to skip this part because this is more for what we're going to do next class. So skip that part. Look at the very last page. And look at numbers 15, 16, 17, 18. It's asking us to find the slope there. So sometimes we're given the equation, we have to find the slope, or we're given the slope of y-intercept and have to write the equation. Are there any of those, 15, 16, 17, 18, that we have questions on? So one more time. 15. Sure. Okay. And 17. Yes. Is that what you said? It is 17. Is not listening. Oh, okay. Let me scroll down my note. No, it's still not the same thing. Anyway, I'm just going to rewrite it. So ignore what's here. I don't know why that's different, but this is the one you have. So if we're looking for the slope, what would that be? It's just -2. It's just a number. And then 17, again, ignore what's up here. I'm going to rewrite that one. What would the slope of this one be? So you were half right. Just 4/3, not the x part.
Okay.
Just the number.
Can I still add it for 15? I added the x.
Okay. So only put the number, because the slope is just the number, not the x part. It is in front of the x, but it's not the x part. Okay. Other questions on the slope? All of this stuff is done. Alright, go back to this page. So we talked about slope-intercept form. Standard form you may see, and we have to convert it back to slope-intercept form. So we'll figure out how to do that. So this one is ax plus by equals c. This one we don't have to remember, but we have to be able to recognize it. But the slope-intercept form we do need to remember for y equals mx plus b. So when we have something like this, we're going to be solving whatever this equation is. Like we solved our literal equations, but we're only ever going to be solving for y. We want to get y by itself. So in this, if I'm trying to get y by itself, I have to get rid of this 2x term. What would I do to it? Yes. Subtract it on both sides. Remember that these are not like terms, so I can't combine them, but I can rewrite it. And then my last step And really, I could do this at any point, and later we'll talk about how we could speed this process up. But I just want to switch these two so that it's in y equals mx plus b, because right now it's like y equals b plus mx. And when I do that, whatever this sign is, if it's negative, it needs to stay negative. If it's positive, it needs to stay positive. So I'm just going to switch those two. And that would be my final answer. These are the same equation, just written in two different formats. This one's in standard form, this one's in slope-intercept form, and later I'll show you how to double check that on Desmos. Questions about that so far? Yes, can you? This one? As opposed to...
sorry, I just didn't.
Oh, didn't get y in general.
Yeah, because I know the plus is like behind the 2s, that's all.
Okay. So I'm trying to get rid of this, and it's positive, and the only way to do that, I'd have to subtract.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
If we were solving for x, then yes. But because we're solving for y, I just want to get rid of that whole thing. Let's do another one. For the most part, all of these are going to start off the same way, subtracting whatever that first term is. So I'm going to subtract that 4x to the other side. So again, I'm just rewriting, not combining like terms. They aren't like terms. And then how would I get 5 by itself? How would I get y by itself? How would we get rid of the 5? There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Not minus, but divide. Because these two are next to each other, so they're multiplying. So to get rid of it, divide. And we're going to divide every single thing by 5. So that the 5's cancel, we get y. Negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. And then can this be simplified? Negative 4 divided by 5? So you're going to leave that as a fraction. If you wanted to see if it could be simplified, put that into your alpha y equals. And it would tell you if you could simplify that or not. But in this case, we cannot. Last step, I'm going to switch those two so that we get y equals negative 4 this x minus 6. Questions on that?
Will you change the even form of 5? Because this is low.
Would, you said would I change it?
What?
To what?
Or you change?
Oh, why did I change the order? Okay, so to make it in y equals mx plus b format. Because right here, it's kind of there, but not really. Okay, so let's do a few more. For number 3, what's our first step? What's that first step in number 3?
You want that stuff?
That's our goal, but we're going to subtract what? X. There we go. Now, in this one, I'm going to do something a little different. When I rewrite this, I'm going to switch them first instead of later by putting negative x plus 12. Because I'm switching it now, I don't have to switch it later. So when you do that, it doesn't matter, as long as you do it eventually. Because now when I divide, it will already be in slope-intercept form. How would I get y by itself? Do that to each piece. And when we do that, the negatives are going to cancel. And this is going to become a positive 1/3 x minus, what's the last number?
Negative.
You may also see it written like this. They mean the exact same thing, they just look different. If this one still has that invisible 1, so it is still 1/3 x, just written differently. So don't let that confuse you. Questions on that one? We're going to do just a couple more of these, and then any others you guys want to see, and then you'll have time to practice. Okay. Number 5 was our first step. Yes. So again, I'm going to go ahead and switch those. Negative 4x plus 0. I don't need the 0. I'm just putting it there. But we could have just dropped it. And then what are we dividing by? Negative, not the y. What number?
-1.
Negative 1. There we go. So that would become y equals a positive 4x. You can leave it like that or put plus 0. Either or. Did you write that? Any questions there? And then the last one. Sarah, do you have this one? Yes. No, it was a negative when we moved it.
Oh, I didn't do negative next to it.
Okay, let's try number 7. What's that first step? Would it still be minus? It's going to be plus. So this is a rare case where instead of it being positive already, it's negative. We would add instead. I went ahead and switched them. And then we're going to divide everything by 4. And I want you to simplify this in your calculator using your alpha y equals. What would that fraction simplify to be? The last one, yes, 20 divided by 4. What about 6 divided by 4? Three halves, yes, or 3 over 2, yes. Any questions on that one? Or any others on this page / the very last page, 19, 20, 21, or 22 that we want to see, do, go over, have questions about? Do you have any questions about any ones we didn't do on this page or 19 through 22 on that very last page? I'm going to show you how you can check yourself in Desmos really quickly on this. This. Okay, so this is the one we just did. number 7. So a great way to double check yourself for these is if you put in the original and then you solve it and you put in your answer that you got, the 2 lines should overlap. If they don't overlap, you know something in your math is wrong. Like maybe I put a negative instead, then they wouldn't overlap. But if they overlap, that tells you they are the same. Okay? So I need you guys to do 2 things for me. And then after you do these 2 things, you can work on retake work, missing tests, other missing delta math, things like that. So the 2 things I need you to do for me are in delta math. So in a second, you can do this on your iPad or your computer. Go into the slope part 2 assignment. What's it look?
I know, why did you finish so
I don't
slow? Like, why did you finish so slow? Oh, that's
Okay. So this one's informative, but the slope part 2. So go into that and do the delta math through there. And the second thing is the discussion on standard form to slope-intercept form. That's what we just did. Now, do those 2 things and you can work on other missing delta math, retake work, or missing tests. If you were not here last class, you also need to do the formative slope. That's part 1. So if you were not here last class, also do slope part 1. But if you were here last class and you finished that, slope part 2. If you didn't finish slope part 1, also be working on that. If you need our help, please raise your hand.